Hi, everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Cioffi here. It's a Saturday night. It's 7 o'clock Eastern Time on March 3rd, 2008. Hi to Shelly Man Studios and edited. William F. Delvin, Mystery Gamer, everybody jumping on board. What a Noreaster that was yesterday. Amazing. We had winds almost to 100 miles an hour being reported off the coast of southeastern New England. We had every bit of 60 to 75 mile an hour wind gusts here where I am on Long Island. I worked pretty much straight through from Thursday night right into last night, so I'm a little bit tired today. But I'm gonna jump on, and we're going to talk about the next weather system. We are going into a very, very active pattern. The blocking signature that developed on over the last couple of weeks is really taking hold now for the eastern part of the United States, and we've got at least two more weather events coming down the road, and possibly even a third. So we're going to get going here. And at least from the standpoint of what's happening now, it is pretty calm. But I'm going to jump right off to the weather models, and we'll take a look at what's happening with the next couple of days. First off, this coastal storm, this animal, remains in place off the East Coast. It's not going anywhere fast. Everything in the upper atmosphere is being controlled by the blocking that we have up in eastern Canada and back through Greenland. I'm gonna back up first here. Let me just bring up the whole map, and we'll bring up the entire U.S. And there you have it. Well, you should have it in a second. And we will go back to present time. You know, when storms don't move northeastward and out to sea and instead drop southward and southeastward, that you've got a whole different perspective going on across much of the Northern Hemisphere. Is this sort of a giant retrogression going from east to west. And this is really going to be the signature. This block may vary in strength over time, but I think it's going to exert its influence for quite a while. Now, we've got energy coming in to the west again, and there are some similarities to what we just went through with what's coming down the pike, but there are some important differences, especially for the east. And when you think about it, the kind of snowstorm that was produced by this system in the Northeast, considering the fact that there was really no cold air, really begs to the strength of how powerful these dynamics that we had were, and how important they are. This time around, as we go into the middle part of next week, there's going to be more cold air to play with. If you take a look up at the surface map here, you've got a big high up to the north in Canada that's really just going to kind of hold in place. So with the jet stream suppressed well to the south, we're going to have a colder signature across the areas along and south of 40 degrees north, colder relative to normal. And I think this is going to be the story all this coming week. We're not talking like the cold we had back from mid-December to mid-January. Obviously, that is not the case here, but it's a cold enough atmosphere. It's cold enough for early March, and that's really all that matters. The energy in the west is producing rain and snow up and down California into Oregon and Washington State, and that extends eastward through the Sierra Nevada and into the northern Rockies. Notice the storm out in the Atlantic on the edge of the screen on the right really doesn't move very much, and you've got the high sandwiched in between. So low pressure that comes out from the west makes its initial run toward the plains. And what happens? Well, this is Monday morning, and there's a big high in the way. You've got pressures up around 1040 plus on the western side of Hudson Bay, and the low can't really go anywhere. You notice there, it just kind of comes to a stall and then drops southeastward. Here we are into early Tuesday morning. You can still see the isobars from the coastal storm still sitting out east at about 35 and 60 or so. So you've got that there. You've got this low that is now moving into northwestern Iowa and high pressure that's sort of sandwiched in between. That high is the block. So the low can't go where it normally would like to go, which would probably be toward the western lakes. So that energy is forced southeastward. A secondary begins to develop along the Carolina coast. And once again, this is going to be a question of does the primary low let go, and does the parent low fall apart, and the secondary low taking over very, very quickly. And I think this is going to be the battle in front of us in terms of what models are going to be doing. We're not in range of the NAM yet, but we're going to go to the NAM because of all the models, it did so well in this last event. And at least as far as the last NAM run went, it's a little hard to see because the isobars on this map aren't drawn as darkly as they are on the other ones. But the primary low here is already on the NAM is much further southeast than it is on either the GFS, the European, or the Canadian. And that primary is in southern West Virginia. The secondary low is already getting ready over eastern North Carolina. And what is also impressive here is when we look at the upper air dynamics at 18,000 feet, 500 millibar. Look at this trough on this cutoff upper low that's sitting in the eastern lakes. Very, very well defined. This is a very powerful feature that's being indicated here by the NAM, and it is going to be a player as we move forward. Now, I'll go back to the GFS so we can go out a little further. Ultimately, we'll look at the 500 anyway. You can see how the trough goes negative, and then you get a cutoff upper low that forms over eastern Long Island. That is a very stormy signature here, and that trough just pivots around as we move through the end of the week, and it already sets the stage for yet another system, and you can see it here diving down into the southeast and then lifting up the eastern seaboard early on the week of March 12th. So definitely a busy pattern here. But we're going to have to take first things first, obviously, with regards to these weather systems. Is you can't go on to the next one while the first one's in play. So you have the secondary low here. The primary's almost all gone, and now the secondary really starts to get going as it moves south of Long Island and over toward Cape Cod. I think you're going to see some model corrections on this. Again, to repeat, we are going to the key is going to be that parent low giving all the energy to the secondary, and the secondary completely taking over. I don't. It's a little early to speculate. The model does what it does. Certainly, the potential is here for another system of size. It would be hard to believe that we could have something on the same magnitude of what we just had. That would be astounding if it were to happen, because it just doesn't happen that often. But, certainly puzzle pieces are here, and I think we're going to have to watch models obviously evolve in the coming days. The European model, just to give you an idea, the European model is pretty much on the same page here. We can only see it in 24-hour increments, but primary low, western Pennsylvania, secondary, another little low center that's sitting up just north of Lake Erie. But again, the high to the north is trying to press in, surface secondary development east of the Delaware coast, and then it winds up going up into the Gulf of Maine, heading for Nova Scotia by the time we get to Thursday. The upper air features on the European are not that different really from the GFS. You have the same picture here with a strong trough swinging here, where you can't see those in-between time periods. Having 24 hours apart is very tough, but you can see how the upper air jet just goes around and negative, and then the southern end of that just winds up cutting off and lifting up to the northeast. So we're going to have quite a bit to look at here in the next couple of days. In the meantime, by the way, in the short range, I just want to point out, might have to look at the North Atlantic view here maybe to see it better. Let's see if we can take a look at this. This actually might be a good perspective. You know, we use this a lot more during hurricane season, but you can see the block to the north there, the blocking high. This is going back now to Wednesday and how it pushed eastward. There's the storm that we just had wrapping up, and now that block between Greenland and Labrador, the system offshore is trapped. Can't really go anywhere. And now here comes the next one. And you still have, you see how that upper high is over in through between Greenland, Labrador, and over Hudson Bay. And that is forcing everything to track further south and east than what we've seen through most of the winter season. And even as we go forward, that block is still there going into Saturday. You still have a blocking upper high sitting over between Labrador and Greenland. And as a result, the next system that follows is going to try and do the same thing. So overall, this is really, it's amazing that we had to wait almost to the end of February, beginning of March to see something like this. But, you know, that's what happens sometimes. You get the whole winter. We didn't see a blocking pattern at all. Usually you get into the spring is a good time to see, blocking patterns do normally develop as the polar vortex breaks down. That is a normal process. But now we're seeing it in March, and March already, we know how volatile March can be. Just a quick check of things going on in Europe. The cold pattern in Europe is going to break down with the block shifting to the west. And in fact, they even get a big ridge that pops up at the end of next week. So I think those mega snows that we were seeing over England and Ireland, I don't know why I can't seem to get my, let's see if I can, why is it not wanting, oh, because I have the European, maybe that's why. Okay, let me go back to the GFS. We'll pop up the surface map. Sorry, folks, I'm just having a little bit of trouble. When you worked a couple of days straight without a whole lot of sleep, it does become a little problematic. We do have some snow and some warmer air coming into England and Ireland, changing it over to some sleet and rain, and then the cold air kind of shifts northward here. Rather stormy pattern going into this week, but most of that is going to be in the form of rain. Again, the colder air seems to be cut off. So at least for England and Ireland, they get a bit of a break here for a little while after all you've been through this week with snow and blizzard conditions. You're finally seeing, a little bit of a relaxation, and that's a good thing. That was an amazing thing for me to watch evolve. That was a whole new experience, watching how the storms impact you folks in Europe and in England and in Ireland in particular, at least in terms of snow. I mean, I did manage to see it evolve in the fall when we had Hurricane Ophelia, but this was really something else. So welcome to everybody that's on board tonight. Thank you for being here. Again, I'm a little bit slow on the uptake here, so just bear with me. I'm just going to come back to the beginning. I want to see if your questions. Nick Cortese, you hit Super Chat tonight, and I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And, of course, you got all the usuals are here, which is great. Orlando Figueroa, you had snow in the Philly area. Yeah, with power flickering, a lot of power outages here. Some people were saying that this was, certainly probably the strongest, in terms of the nor'easter, it's probably the strongest nor'easter we've seen here in the last 5 or 6 years in terms of its total impact from the mid-Atlantic states all the way up through New England. And some of the snow amounts through upstate New York, by the way, and the Catskills northward were just astounding. 18 to 24-inch amounts. Not too far from me in northern New Jersey and northwestern New Jersey, there was every bit of 8 to 14 inches. Had snow down to the coast, which didn't accumulate in coastal areas. Some places did get a slushy accumulation, but as we sort of went back and forth from snow to rain with temperatures in the middle 30s, the snow had no real staying power. But I think this time around, going into this week, with the way everything is set up in the atmosphere, we are going to see, we do have a colder look to everything. So do not be surprised if this winds up being more. Do not be surprised if this is something that winds up impacting coastal areas from New Jersey on up into southern New England. Always smiling. Your snow is melting. You were on red weather alert for snow and ice. And yeah, I saw that. I will say, by the way, I was trying to use some of the weather your weather service and looking at the UK weather service. I can understand what you mean when you say that it's very hard for you to get information, because I found it very difficult getting a real gauge of what was going on by reading what they were posting in terms of the forecast. When you look at our weather service here in the U.S., it's very detailed, very, very detailed and specific as far as their forecasts are concerned. And you get much, much more information and access to so much more. You guys really need to lobby your governments to step it up a couple of notches as far as their what they have available to the public, because it really is sorely lacking. Let's see. You get a meter of snow. Wow, that's insane. Have you had a meter of snow altogether in the last 10 years? That's just an insane amount. Timothy Veltman, the NAM is going, here's the thing with the NAM now. I've been preaching from the altar mainly. I've been preaching about the NAM's superiority this winter. And now, of course, I think it seems that everybody is on, kind of jumping onto this. There is going to come a point where the NAM is going to stop working. The question is it now, or is it going to be with the next one, or the one after that, or the one after that? So you always want to look at these models with a certain amount of caution. But the NAM is going to remain front and center. It certainly had, of all the models, it had the coldest and more correct look, and certainly had the impact of the upper air dynamics was reflected better on the NAM than on all the other models. But so we're gonna be paying very close attention to what it does, and if it keeps working, great. If it stops working, it might send some forecasts going up in flames. We shall see. But tomorrow at this time, we'll have at least enough of the NAM will be out far enough that we will be able to evaluate it. But it really was the bottom of the atmosphere. It was really good. The GFS was the Euro, way too warm with the last system. When I looked at some of the statistical models that we used to forecast temperatures, they were anywhere from 7 to 10 degrees too high. That's a huge error. Huge error. You're at 2C at the moment. Okay, good. You're above freezing and with light rain. I guess everybody. It must be. It's good. It must be some mess there now with temperatures above freezing, and rain, and yeah, probably even some fog too. Just running down all your comments here. Hello back to everybody who says hello to me. I'm not trying to leave anybody out here. The dangerous wind. Joshua Pan, would it help to shift the ridge in the west eastward a little for the coming storm? I don't know that it would. We seem to be, you're going to get that. let me show you that you are going to get some ridging out in the west. The PNA, the Pacific North America Index, and here's the thing: this is why you got to, and I've said many times about these teleconnections that they're not silver bullets here. There's no or magic bullets in the sense that you would have, one indicator or two indicators that you can look at and say it's a guarantee that you're going to have a certain outcome. The PNA was grossly negative through this whole storm event, but you had an off-the-wall NAO, and that clearly was the driver. And, PNA, people were saying, oh, you can't have a big storm because the PNA is negative. Wrong. Big wrong. I guess the PNA was so negative that, and I have to come to a better understanding of this, but the NAO and the PNA being so off the wall negative that we wound up with the kind of outcome that we had. And I think I'm going to leave it to those who spend their time going back and look at these storms and post analysis to come up with their conclusions of all this. But you'll notice that the PNA going into the middle part of next week goes positive. So there is going to be some ridging in the west, and the NAO is still going to be very strongly negative here. So the blocking signature is going to be intact in a powerful enough way to drive this system further south and to have a colder look here in the eastern part of the U.S. You notice the PNA does go negative again as we go toward mid-month. The NAO is forecast to go positive, but I'm going to tell you that it's this one. It may wind up staying negative longer. Models like to do this sometimes. So we saw back a couple of weeks ago how it kept making the PNA going positive, and that didn't turn out to be the case. So I'd be very careful in the long range about whether the NAO actually starts to go slightly positive or not. It may not. And by the way, at the point where you see the NAO accelerating upward when it gets to the neutral line around the 13th, 14th, that could be a signal for another storm system affecting the eastern United States. The models do show one behind the one that we're going to see for the middle part of this coming week. So very, very busy pattern, no doubt about it. Okay, I'm coming back to your questions here. John Delfino, I think that the atmosphere is definitely going to be colder this time around than it was going into Tuesday, into the storm we just had. I mean, look what occurred with absolutely no cold air. I mean, granted, the immediate coast wasn't able to sustain it, but you didn't have to go that far west to find it. And in fact, the storm, remember, it had an upside down look. The most of New England got rain out of this, and the heaviest snow was west and south of the low center, as opposed to being north and northeast of the low center. That sort of upside down look. I don't think you're going to have the upside down look this time around. You're going to have a look that makes a little bit more sense. And the storm is in the high to the north, funneling down some colder air. It's not going to be Arctic cold, obviously, but it's going to be colder than what we had. And certainly, I think it will be cold enough that coastal areas will be getting some snow out of this, assuming that we don't see any other changes in the models in terms of what the low is going to do. But the real key to me, as I said, is that primary secondary transfer of energy occurring fast enough. So it's way too early, by the way, to speculate in terms of snow amounts. But, if you want me to just kind of, from the look of the kind of storm it is, I think this is going to be a 6-inch plus event for somebody, the way it looks. But let's reserve judgment for another day. I know, Nick Cortez, you're thinking about late March. I don't know yet. That's way too far ahead to look. Certainly through the middle of the month, we're going to be stuck in this pattern for quite a while. Is the NAM model, as Anthony Orr is asking, the go-to model? The NAM model is going to be the go-to model now until such time that it stops working. and it may, and at some point it will stop working. They all do that. But until it does, I mean, it's just had such a superior performance. I would tend to think that it will continue to perform well. It's still under the influence of this block, as all the models are. So it's the model biases that have been there for each model. It will probably remain while we have this pattern. Maybe when we switch to another type of pattern, that might cause models to switch in terms of which one performs better. But for now, I'm staying. I'm going to stay with the NAM. And yeah, Nick, the pattern is a bit backwards. It's warm in February, cooler in March, but that's not unusual. That does happen from time to time. And so Matt Schilling, do I think Long Island has a shot for 6+ this week? You know what? Let's wait till tomorrow. We'll have enough of the NAM out there to see to make a better judgment of it. I don't know. I don't want to say anything at this point. The pieces are there as far as the puzzle are concerned, but whether they come together or not still remains to be seen. And thank you for the kind words, John Delfino. I've been busting my horns the last couple of days, and I'm you can tell by the fact that I'm having a tough time completing sentences. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. I wasn't actually able to get home because of the fact that with the wind, the bridges were shut down for a while. So I wound up sleeping at my mother's house up in Westchester County, and that wasn't fun. I like a very cold environment when I'm sleeping, and she kind of likes to keep the house nice and warm, and it does well, nice and warm if you're up, but not when you're asleep. So I had a difficult time. The probabilities of heavy snows start to decrease dramatically after the 10th of March. That's correct, Nick Cortese. But if you have the right pattern set up, then it's a different story. So, if you're going to have a higher probability of snow after the 10th of March, you're going to need the correct weather pattern in order to pull it off. And we do have that. We are going to have that going into the middle part of the month. So that may not apply this time around. And even though the odds may decrease dramatically, they don't go to zero. So we will, we're going to have more chances. Timothy Veltman, it used to be this way back in the 50s and 60s. In fact, I did see somebody point to March 1962 as an analog where it was rather chilly and stormy for most of the month, and it really I don't think it got to 60 in New York City until late in the month, like the last couple of days of the month. So I don't know if we're on the same course as far as that's concerned. I don't always like to look at analogs because sometimes there's an implication that that it would happen, things would happen the same way, and almost all the time they don't. They don't repeat exactly, and I don't like to rely on them too much. It's interesting to look at. Some people are able to use that to their advantage in terms of a forecast tool, but I've never been able to get my head around it. Yes, everybody. April 2007, a nice surprise, 10 inches of snow. These late season events are fun because this is usually the time of year you get surprises like this, and we obviously had some places got their big snowfall the other day, but I wouldn't be surprised if we still wind up with a couple of more events. The nice thing about this time of year is that the snow does melt fast, so it doesn't stick around for too long. Dio Nankumar on the GFS. Well, remember the GFS has been too warm on the last several events, including this one. It was terrible, actually. With this one in terms of its profile of the bottom of the atmosphere. And the problem with the GFS was that it held on to the primary for too long. If it has the same problem with this one, you're going to see it show rain in places that may very well wind up being snow. So be very, very careful on how you look at these models when you see where they display rain and where they display snow. I will tell you that the European was cold with its profile, and it had the southern edge of 3 to 6 inches of snow down into southern New Jersey. That would be the southern edge of 3 to 6, southern New Jersey, southeastern Pennsylvania, and then amounts kind of skewed up as you go north and northeast from there. So the European's view is colder. Maybe the European will show that secondary taking over fast enough, like the NAM did in the last event. So we really just have to wait and see what happens. We've got plenty of time to watch this. I've got a couple of I have one post today. I only had strength to write one post on the long range, but you can check that out on meteorologistjoecioffi.com. No Facebook Joe and Joe show on the weekends, but we'll be back on Monday with that. So we will have plenty of talk to talk about with respect to the next system. I'm trying to figure out how I can get a Skype in here on these live streams so I can bring a guest on. As soon as I have that issue worked out, hopefully I will be able to do that. We'll live stream here tomorrow on YouTube. I'll wait till maybe around this time tomorrow night, or perhaps it might be a shade later than that. Being a Sunday, I like to get a little downtime. So I'll put a schedule. I'll put it up on the channel page in terms of what time I think I might be able to live stream. In the meantime, I would like everybody to enjoy their weekends. Their weekend. Thank you very much for hitting Super Chat tonight, Nick Cortese, and thanks to all of you who have done it along the way. I really, really appreciate it. But you know what? I'm dead tired, so we're going to put an end to this now, and I will see you tomorrow.